Okay, a very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining for this third session of the six-part series on advancing growth for family-owned businesses and private companies during COVID and beyond. This is all about your organization's construct at the top. It's all about governance. And today, in this third session, we are going to talk about decision making. Just to give you a little bit of a brief on the previous sessions, we have covered, first and foremost, there was an introduction of Raj and me in the first outline. The first session was on board composition. The second session was on board effectiveness. And this third session is touching on decision making. If you missed any of these previous videos, there are links below this video, which you can please go ahead and watch these ones. So they are really insightful and they'll give you some insights. But today we want to share about decision making and what is the construct of good, effective decision making. So I'll hand it over to Raj to, first of all, explain, how can we make this decision making process more reinforced and, having more value by having that sustainability mindset in place. So Raj, maybe you can share some insights.
Oh, indeed. Thank you, Vijay. And this is an area that isn't well explored or understood really by smaller companies and to a large extent by larger companies. The senior directors I meet, and I'm training a very large amount of them each year. And I'm finding that the decision making seems to be thought as a point in time, to address a particular issue to move on. Well, there's a context to this, and we mustn't overlook it. When we talk about good decision making, there has to be a reason why it's a good decision, and it really has to come back to how does it align with what we have set out to be. So in the earlier videos, we talked about the need for a very carefully formulated, tangible strategy and a vision and a mission, and then we have to monitor if we're on track. So the decisions work on very similar lines. Why should we make this decision? How does it align with what we've set out to be? And therefore, it's important that we talk about decision choices. If I'm a finance person or a marketeer or a chief operating officer or anyone in the company, if I'm going to put forward ideas, I need to put forward choices. And it's up to the boardroom then to choose the right choice, and move on from that. I'm sure you've got a couple of thoughts on this one as well, Vijay.
Yes.
Some more once you've had your perspective on it as well.
Yes, thank you, Raj, and I think you brought out the core insight as such, and I just want to extend further that it's basically making sure that you got as much facts as you can. And there's a very good book which I read, and this is something which I work with my clients. And what we normally do is 70 to 80% we try gathering facts. So at board level, gathering facts of about 70 to 80%, and 20%, obviously, it's that gut feeling or the risk which we have to take or the bet which we have to take. So that is the sort of construct. And this is just a guideline. It's not something that you can use in all organizations, but this is something which has worked in many organizations. But here's the thing. It's about having the right information at board level as well. Sometimes that is missing. What's happening is sometimes there's so much of information, and at times there's very little information with a lot of assumptions. So the whole decision-making process is imbalanced as such. So it's very important to make sure that you get the right information. Now, Raj, we were talking about strategy in our previous session, and one of the key things which has really helped many family businesses and private companies is to have a blueprint. So what I normally advise, and this is what we normally do, is at board level, we have a blueprint, which is a snapshot. And that 1 or 2 pager is like, it covers the main core aspect of the strategy itself. And then there's drill down information if anybody wants any further information. This really helps in the decision-making process. The other point I want to raise here is to ensure that everybody contributes. Raj, I'll give you an example. There was this service company, and I was in the board. And what happened here is that after the board meeting, I was talking to one of the directors, and I was just telling her that what happened. I didn't see you contributing to this particular meeting. And she's saying, I felt intimidated because one or two of the board members were like dominating the whole discussion. And, that influence sort of made her, she just didn't want to contribute. She didn't feel right contributing. So it's very important to empower board members to be authentic and to contribute, because that is where you get the richness when it comes to this decision making and the closure of the choices that you're going to make, which is going to determine the roadmap as you navigate through tough times. So it's very important to ensure what are the alterations to the strategy. What do you need to rethink? What do you need to relook? What are some of the concerns that you need to really bring out and surface out? Because it's just not, a pat on the back saying that, yes, we've got everything positive without the negative being surfaced out. So Raj, I hope I'm just putting into table a real practical, pragmatic scenario, which I pick up in some of the discussions I have, Raj.
Well, let me layer that with what I'm actually consulting businesses out there currently, because we're in the midst of COVID, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. So, the boardrooms are asking questions, how do we go forward here? What should we be thinking about? And look, ultimately, it's about cash preservation, because without cash, the company dies. But any decision you need to make will have a profound effect. And in a time of uncertainty, you have to decide when you're going to open, when you're going to shut down, what products line you're going to shut down, are you going to move to online? And so there's so much going on here. And so the best advice I can give, and I think a lot of people are thinking seriously about this, is that when a decision is put to the boardroom, there should be a paper beneath that which says why this decision aligns with the strategy. And if it doesn't, then it should explain why it doesn't. And that could point to a couple of things. Maybe we need to go and revisit our strategy and the vision, mission statements, or perhaps the decision as the facts behind the decision or the estimates aren't quite well thought out. Another thing I would expect the sponsor of the decision is to put forward good risk and bad risk. And then I can decide whether they've thought about all the perspectives. And I'm particularly thinking about my corporate risk appetite. How much risk can I stomach? And if I find that the proposal is a bit on the edge, then I may have to think very seriously about that decision, And so I think coming back to your point about the groupthink in a boardroom, where you've got strong people who dominate, the weaker ones, and they're not weaker, they're perhaps introverted, or they don't feel comfortable to say things. Well, they're certainly empowered, to use your word, because they are more confident that they've done the due analysis and diligence around it, And I think this process works well, in addition to the blueprint you talked about. So I'm sure these are recurring themes which we'll cover in the next episodes.
Yeah. Thank you, Raj. I mean, absolutely brilliant. I mean, the way you summed it up. And just to wrap this particular session up, I just want to add to what Raj you mentioned as well, is just make sure that you don't, convert complexities into simplicity. Try breaking down the complexities and look into the simplicity and ask those incisive questions, because the more questions you ask, the pertinent questions that you ask, the more insights you'll be able to get, and that will build upon the confidence, the certainty, and the outcomes will be more clear as well. So at the end of the day, it's all about how you really go about with the process and make your decision-making process more effective. My dear friends, I hope you found some value out of this particular session, because our intention, Raj and my intention, is to give you as much value as we can. And I hope you found a lot of value out of this. Join us for the next session, which is going to be on stakeholder management, which is extremely important for family-owned business and private companies. Thank you very much for joining, and I look forward to seeing you in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you.